Do you have a pattern of quitting too early? And if you do, you got to stop doing that. This has got to be the first time in your life you don't freaking quit. I don't care what you're doing in your life. I don't care if you're starting a business, if you're in the gym on a fitness journey, if you're trying to repair your relationship, if you just became a parent and you're burnt out, it doesn't matter. This has got to be the first time in your life you don't quit. You can't put timelines on things that are going to determine whether you continue to do things. All right, welcome back to Win Anyway. We are on episode number 3, if I'm correct, of season 6, if I'm correct. And I know we had a couple weeks off, so I apologize for that. We've been traveling, sick, all of the above. But we are back, and we've got a topic today that I believe, I really think this is where most of us got to get it right. Because when I started in business, it's been now April this year, so in 2 months would be 15 years since I got in the business. When I started business, I let me tell you what I had. I had no experience. I had no market. I had no clients. I had no one who believed that I was going to do great in business, other than maybe my parents and Ronnie. I had no clients that were lining up because they wanted to be my client. Like, hey, Jay, if you're going to go do this, I want to support you and be your client. I didn't have any of that. I had no friends that were dying to get in business with me because they knew that everything I touched turned to gold, and they knew if they were in business with me, they were going to become rich. Didn't have any of that. I had no money. I had no experience. But I had one thing, really just one thing. That like one package thing, which was consistency and a lot of self-confidence. That was it. Like that was my package combo. Consistency and a lot of self-confidence. And if we could just get this right, I really think everyone would succeed in business. But it's the one thing that people don't have. So today we're going to talk about why most people fail. And point 1 would be the reason that most people lose. Most people don't fail because they're incapable. They fail because they don't stay long enough for something to actually work. They don't stick to something long enough for it to work. They're not consistent long enough for it to work. So for example, let's say you get in business and you have this skill set, right? Let's pretend it's prospecting. Or let's pretend it's making phone calls. They start doing it. They don't see results right away, so then they stop. And they say they're just taking a break, but they're not. They actually stop. Then they get inspired, so they do it again. Boom, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 days in a row. And if they don't get a result, then they stop. Most people quit. Most people, they don't actually quit. They just fail because they're inconsistent. And because they're inconsistent, they quit. It's not about being consistent once. It's not about being consistent twice. It's about being consistent day after day after day. And most people, they start and stop. They start and stop. They start and stop. And they don't do anything long enough for it to work. And the reality is if you don't do it long enough for it to work, then you didn't fail. You stopped. And the problem is that the results never come. But sometimes the results come on day 1. Sometimes the results come on day 2. Sometimes you're going to get lucky and you're going to get a win on day 5. Sometimes you're not going to get a win till like day 40. But people don't stick long enough for that to work. So that's the first thing, is that if we look at why most people fail in business, it's because they stop and they're not consistent. And so it's this constant like, all right, let me start over again. Okay, let me start over again. I'll start over again on Monday. All right, this time I'm really going to do it. It's just constant starting over. You can't win long-term at anything if you're constantly starting over. Another reason why people fail in business is they put a timeline on everything. For example, this is where most people really sabotage themselves. If I don't hit this within 30 days, I'm out. If I'm not rich by my 25th birthday, I'm going to go back to my job. If I don't get my promotion by this time in the summer, I'm done. If I don't get promoted by the end of the year and get my watch by the end of the year or hit my ring by Vegas, I'm not going to Vegas. Like, They put a timeline on it. That's not real entrepreneurship. That's like emotional business gambling. But that's not entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurs don't operate on emotional timelines. Entrepreneurs set goals and then they hit the goal. And if they didn't hit the goal, then they may move the goal back. And they don't quit. They adjust rather than abandon mission. They just adjust. They go, okay, well, didn't get it done. Here's the reason why most people quit and they don't adjust. It's because they didn't actually do anything. Okay, most people don't operate like real entrepreneurs. They don't actually do anything, so there's not really anything to adjust. Entrepreneurs have a long-term way of thinking towards their business, a long-term discipline. The moment you put a deadline on the dream or the goal or whatever it is, it's no longer attainable. You should have a deadline on the goal, but not I'm going to quit if I don't hit it. Think and Grow Rich, I just did a whole training on this tonight. Think and Grow Rich talks about how to set goals, and that you have to have a clear, defined goal, and it has to have a date. And if it's a financial goal, it has to be attached to a dollar amount. And then you go after that goal with a strategy and a game plan and all these things. But most people don't do that because they don't actually have a strategy and a game plan. They're not even consistent enough in order to do something long term to see it work. So they don't stand a chance. And then they go, well, if I don't hit it by here, then it's not meant to be. And then they quit. Okay, so timelines are killing most people in business. Another thing. Results aren't necessarily going to always be ran on a clock. Okay? What do I mean by that? Sometimes, like I said, you're going to see a result on day 2. Sometimes you're going to see a result on day 5 or day 40. Sometimes it shows up 40 weeks into the game, like 3/4 of the year. The problem is most people quit on day 12. Okay? They're watering seeds, and then they're digging up the seed every 5, 6, 7 days to see whether something grew. That's not how it works. They're watering seeds and digging it up every morning to check if it's growing. What that does is that kills your seed. Just because you don't see roots doesn't mean something isn't growing. You got to fall in love with the process. You got to fall in love with the work. Compounding takes time. Results take time. Building something takes time. Confidence takes time. Proof, by the way, which is what most people want, is proof that they're going to succeed. Proof that they should be doing this. Proof that this is what God wants for them. That takes time. All these things take time. But we can't have time and be okay with time if we're emotionally attached to the goal. So we got to learn to emotionally detach. What does that mean? I do the work because I love the work. I hustle because I love it. I send my messages because I believe that at the end, when all is done, I'm going to succeed. I believe this is where I belong. I believe that I've stuck my flag into the ground, making a declaration that this is where I'm going to be. You got to emotionally detach from the outcome, meaning the immediate results, seeing the roots in the ground right away. Like that, it's business immaturity. Mature leadership knows I'm going to do the work without being emotionally attached. And I'm going to continue to do the work. And then if the work isn't working after 60, 75 days, I'm going to adjust. But I'm not going to be passive. I'm not going to be careless. I'm not going to be emotional about it. I'm just going to do the work. But I'm going to do it intentionally. I'm going to do it consistently. I'm going to do it long term. I'm going to learn to love it. I'm going to be steady. I'm going to show up. I'm not going to have excuses. I'm going to execute. I'm going to improve. I'm going to get feedback. I'm going to master my craft. That's a real entrepreneur. I'm going to master my skill. I'm going to master this business. I'm going to master whatever it is I'm doing. And whether the result shows up today or in 6 months doesn't matter. That doesn't dictate whether I'm doing this or not. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, unless God makes it very clear that I'm not going to. That's not how most people operate. For me, I'm going to do this every day, whether it's working or not. My job is the work. God will come in and hopefully handle the timing for me. And hopefully it's soon. Hopefully I don't have to bust my butt for forever. Okay, hopefully it's soon. My job's to do the work. The opposite way of thinking, where a lot of us, how most of us operate, is I stayed 6 months I go into these freaking trainings, and I still ain't got paid. Dude, you are so fake. That is not an entrepreneur. I've been showing up to meetings for 3 months and this business let me down. Someone told me that the other day. Oh, this is where I'm trying not to get an explicit notice stamp on this episode. The other day, someone said, this business let me down. If I could have just like punched them through the phone, I'd have punched them through the phone, like just boom. If it was a speakerphone, it was down, boom, out of nowhere. This business let me down. I'm like, this person's not going to see the podcast. I don't think so. It's fine. But I'm like, like the most unattractive thing I've ever heard anyone say. This business let me down. What do you mean this business let you down? You got to do your part. You got to do the work. You got to show up. You got to execute. You got to learn. You got to improve. You got to repeat. Your job's to do the work. You got to fall in love with the process, not the paychecks. You got to fall in love with the process, not the applause. You got to fall in love. Like, holy crap. Where is the self-responsibility in a statement like that? This business let me down. As if you gave it everything you got. Like, really? Holy smokes. I was so stunned by the statement. And this is how I know I've grown, because I remained polite and supportive. But holy crap, like, can you imagine going through life with that kind of mentality? Everywhere you lay on the ground, there's a chalk line everywhere because you're a victim everywhere you go. Like, it is crazy. I couldn't believe it. I was so stunned. That is the furthest thing from an entrepreneur's mentality. It's like, holy crap, go back to your job, dude. That is where you belong. Zero thought in my mind. This is not for you. Entrepreneurship is not for you. Like, this business let me down. Like, oh, my goodness. I was stunned. Let me tell you what entrepreneurs don't say. If this doesn't work by this date, I'm out. That's not entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs say, I'm doing this until it works. Until it works. That's the shift. Period. That's it. No emotional roller coaster. It don't matter to me. I'm doing it till it works. No scoreboard decision making. Like, no going, oh, well, I'm losing this month. Well, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe it was a bad choice. Like, no. As an entrepreneur, you are in charge of your results. No identity crisis every weekend for an entrepreneur. Now, they may lose their crap and go, oh my goodness, what am I doing? But they're not having a constant identity crisis. It's just disciplined repetition. I'm going to grind. I'm going to work. I'm going to go through this and I'm going to get the job done and I'm going to keep doing it. That's entrepreneurship. It's not constantly second guessing whether or not they're supposed to be doing something. Winners aren't of struggling with indecision. They know what they want. And winners aren't more talented. They're just more locked in, like more certain on this is the path. That's it. They stay there. They're still there constantly. They don't quit. Okay? I mean, when that person told me, oh, I wish, what else was it? I try to block stupidity out of my mind. This business let me down. You know, I was committed and then I was just let down. I was disappointed. Like, oh my God, just like the most ugliest. Like, if you were the prettiest person in the world, you just became so gross. It's just such an ugly way of thinking. It's crazy to me. So there's got to be an identity shift in order to win. Okay, consistency is not a tactic. It's an identity. People that are consistent because of the fact that they want to win. That's it. People that are consistent in the gym are consistent because they want to be healthy, because they want to look their best, because they're chasing progress, because they're literally watching their body and they're trying to chisel away at it with a hammer and, you know, some sort of like a pick to chisel everything they're trying to accomplish. That's consistency, right? It doesn't need to be anything. You don't try to be consistent. You just are, because it's who you are. And how you do something is how you do everything. So people that are consistent in one thing, they're good at everything they do. That's why you got to recruit winners, because winners are good at everything they do because they love to win. Winning is a habit. That's why the podcast is called Win Anyway, because no matter what you put in the front of the sentence, comma, win anyway. Doesn't matter. I was sick, but win anyway. I'm tired, but win anyway. I'm lazy today, but I'm going to win anyway. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't, that's the whole point. That's why tenacity exists. That's what the definition of our company that we built in tenacity is. Continue to do something until it works, refusing to give up, to be the last person there. Like, that's the whole point. That's what tenacity is all about. You don't stop because it's slow. You don't stop because it's quiet. You don't stop because you're not getting support. You don't stop because you're tired. True entrepreneurship is an identity. The boring days are building the breakthrough days. The quiet days are building the explosion days. The tired days are building the retirement days. Like, that's the whole entire point of the whole entire thing. So here's my question for you. If you're on the podcast and you're listening right now, do you have a pattern of quitting too early? And if you do, you got to stop doing that. This has got to be the first time in your life you don't freaking quit. I don't care what you're doing in your life. I don't care if you're starting a business. I don't care if you're in the gym on a fitness journey, if you're trying to repair your relationship, if you just became a parent and you're burnt out. It doesn't matter. This has got to be the first time in your life you don't quit. You can't put timelines on things that are going to determine whether you continue to do things. You can put timelines on goals, but you don't put timelines on whether or not you belong here. If I don't hit it by this time, if I'm not married by 25, I wasn't supposed to be married. I've heard people say stuff like that. I want to be married and a millionaire by 30. Okay, good. That's a goal. Let's put an action plan. But if you don't hit it by 30, it doesn't mean you're never going to be a millionaire and you're never going to be married. So when people go, well, if I'm not making at least what I'm making at my job by the end of the year, I'm out. Like, what do you mean? What if you made 50 grand part-time? What the hell is wrong with that? That's pretty darn good. Okay? Where do you quit too early? What's your mentality? What are you rehearsing in your mind? I did a whole training with my team on how we're either in our subconscious mind rehearsing ourselves winning or ourselves losing. One of the two. Winning or losing. All the fear, all the bad things, all the what ifs, all the past traumas and hurts from your childhood and prior relationships, we're either rehearsing that in our mind and seeing that happening in our current relationship or our current business or our current endeavor, and we become a self-fulfilling prophecy of everything going to crap. Or we're rehearsing in our mind, we're winning. People are saying, yes, I'm confident, I'm consistent, I love what I do, I'm the best version of myself. Man, I'm grateful to be here. And we're seeing success in our subconscious mind. It's the conversation you have with yourself. Most people are having a conversation that's negative. They're seeing worst case scenario, the absolute worst outcome. And they're looking for reasons to co-sign on what they already believe about themselves and what they're doing, which is that they're not going to succeed or they're going to fail or their relationship's going to fall apart or whatever it is. And then what happens is we start to see it. And then when little things happen and we get a little bit of friction or a little bit of resistance, what do? Oh, here's what I was looking for. Here's the proof. And then they quit. Or whatever it is falls apart, right? Where the winner is rehearsing in their mind success. Like Tiger says, before he puts the ball, he sees the ball going in the hole already. You know, Steph Curry, before he takes the shot at the buzzer, he's seeing it going in already, right? So we're rehearsing one of the two things, success or the complete opposite. Right? I'm seeing my relationship winning. I'm seeing my children be healthy. I'm seeing my future be prosperous and fulfilled and joyful and full of purpose, right? And it's like I'm rehearsing myself winning in business. I see my clients saying yes. I see myself on stage someday. I see the best version of me with my dream body that I worked so hard to become. And it's the person I had to become and discipline to get that body. That's what the body represents, right? Like, it's one of the two. And then when I start to win and things in my life start to go good, I grab onto that and I go, boom, there's proof that's why I'm supposed to be here. It's one of the two. That's entrepreneurship. That's why most people fail. Most people fail because they've already seen themselves fail 10 million times in their mind before they ever failed. Winners see themselves winning before they ever won, right? That's the secret. That's really ultimately the secret to everything, is you're rehearsing one of the two in your subconscious mind. All right, you guys. Well, I appreciate all the love, all the support. We just did a webinar for the whole company recently, and I just appreciate there's just so many people in the chat. The chat was just flooded with so much support. You know, people messaging that aren't even in the same company as me anymore. I got messages today I'm killing it over here. I want to be the you of this industry. I want to be the you of this company. And it's cool. But at the end of the day, it's about being the best version of you. And if the podcast could help, then do us a favor, share it, send it to somebody else. Every time you guys post it, you're watching it, or you're listening to it, and you tag us on social media. We love it. And as always, we wish you the best. May God bless you, and we are out.